I'm hitting continue. All right, hello and welcome everyone to our virtual happy hour. We will have guest speaker Gina Gallagher from the B3 group on with us later in the hour. That'll be at 4:30. She'll be hopping on. Until then, I have a couple things to go over with you guys today. First topic of discussion will be some of the Microsoft Teams updates. Those include the private channels, release of updating faces, how many faces you can see in a meeting or live event, and then a new feature that they released this month called the raising hand feature, which will come to organizations as well as the GCC cloud the next month is what they're saying. So those are some of the things we'll be talking about. And then we'll also be talking about the remote work checklist that we provided to everybody in our last Lunch and Learn, but we wanted to go back over it just as a friendly reminder, making sure that everybody is abiding by those checklists. I believe there is, let's see, 7 or 8 things to go over there, just real quick hitters. And then we also wanted to do a quick plug for what we're doing with these. These are virtual happy hours, so hopefully you guys have a drink in hand. I do have a drink in hand. I am drinking a nice cold beer this afternoon, but with alcohol, speaking of alcohol and fun and all the fun that comes with it, we'll be having Paradise Springs of Clifton, Virginia. It's a local business to Northern Virginia, which is the point of us doing these happy hours, is to spotlight local businesses. And so Paradise Springs of Clifton, Virginia, they will be doing a happy hour with us in 2 weeks, I believe. First week in May, I think. And so I have a bottle of their, and I'll turn my video on real quick so you guys can see. I have a bottle of their, I'm going to say this wrong, Petite Verdot, I believe is the way you say that. So yeah, check them out. Paradise Springs of Clifton. And they, my wife and I actually joined their wine club after they did a virtual happy hour. So we'll have them on to talk about how they're adapting, some of the things that they're doing, like how they're innovating, like their virtual happy hours. And they offer, if you're in the Northern Virginia area, they do offer free delivery, which is pretty cool. If you're in a 25-mile radius, they give you free delivery. So that's pretty cool these days. So Paradise Springs will be having on 2 weeks. Next week is Tech Data. Tech Data is our distributor. They're not a small business, but we'll be going over some of the things that they're offering, some of the things that they're doing during this time to support small businesses like ours. We are Capital Presence. We're a women-owned small business, and we work with Tech Data to sell laptops, computers, software, licensing. So we'll have them on to talk about some of the cloud offerings and some of the changes that not just Microsoft, but AWS and even Google are doing during these times to provide cloud offerings to small businesses. So if you're interested in cloud computing and how some of this remote work and all that kind of stuff is affecting you and how it can affect you, make sure you tune in next week with Mike Clark of Tech Data, who's down in Florida. So we'll get the Florida perspective on that as well. So back to the slides here. So that's the introduction. So congratulations, everybody. We've made it past bullet point 1. But who we are, I'll give that quick update. We are Microsoft partners, Silver partners. We're also AWS partners. We're a class certified woman-owned small business. So that's WOSB in the state of Virginia. We're also SWAM certified, which is small woman and minority owned in the state of Virginia. So we are federally certified, women owned, and state certified. And we work with Microsoft and AWS technologies to provide remote solutions and our hashtag, if you will, is work wherever. So that's who we are and what we do. And we help organizations of all sizes work remotely and utilize cloud technologies and platforms to ensure business doesn't halt or stop during times like these, and all the time, really. We've been a business since 2016, and our mission and vision the whole time has been around cloud technologies and remote businesses. So this COVID-19 is nothing new to us in terms of the remote work. Obviously, the pandemic is very new to everybody, but the mandated telework is something we've been doing for the existence of us as a company. So that leads us into the Microsoft Teams updates that have released over the last month or so. They've been releasing them pretty steadily every week or two, is what it seems. And it's all in response to a lot of the changing environment within the remote work. So I will go over a couple of their updates, but first I'll open up my beer since this is a happy hour. So Microsoft Teams updates. There's been changes to video conferences. There is hand raising, and then there's a few other updates that we'll go over as well. So let's jump in. There we go. So the first thing is private channels. So private channels is something that is not necessarily new to the commercial landscape, although it's relatively new in the last couple months. But it was just released to the GCC. And for those of you who are government employees or work with government agencies, the GCC is the government commercial cloud. So they have different rules and regulations that they have to abide by. And so Microsoft releases certain things to them that the commercial cloud or commercial organizations do not have. So private channels are within Microsoft Teams, which is an application released by Microsoft. For video chats, document collaboration, and storage. And so a team is a virtual workplace, and so there are channels within Teams where people can communicate within a team. So if the team was, say, sales, you have the sales and marketing team. One channel could be sales, where all the sales reps speak. One could be marketing, where all the marketing reps speak. And then you could have a private channel, which is what I'm talking about here, referencing here, is a separate team channel within that team that actually creates a separate team site, meaning you can control the permissions uniquely and revoke, whereas the other just normal channels that sales and marketing within the example would be open to all members of sales and marketing, whereas a private channel is something where owners and members of the private channel, they can access that channel without some members. So you can restrict membership. It's important to note that you are restricting membership, you're not granting membership, whereas they would have to still be a member of the sales and marketing team in order to be a member of the private channel. Like we couldn't have, Bill from accounting only be a member of, the products or contracts private channel within the sales and marketing team. He would have to be part of sales and marketing in order to be a member of that private channel. So anyone, including guests, can also be added as members in the private channel, but again, they have to be members of the greater team. Private channels create a separate team site, which I just went over. That's important to note when you're talking about storage limits. You can also you can only add people in a private channel that are part of the overall team, which I went over, and then private teams will be shown with a lock symbol. So that's how you know it's a private team and it's secure. It'll have like a little lock icon next to it. If it doesn't have the lock icon, then it's open to all members within the environment, and that's a standard channel within that team. So moving on to the teams moving to 9. So this is something that a lot of people asked for. There are some other chat technologies out there that show everyone who's in the meeting, everyone who's in the chat. Microsoft Teams currently, if you're utilizing Microsoft Teams currently within your environment, you're only able to see 4 people, 4 faces at a time. So you would see that 4-person grid. But now on the left, you can see there that is what will be the new look within Microsoft Teams. It's a 9-person grid, so 3 across, 3 down, so on and so forth. And so that will be the 9 that you'll be able to see. They are working to extend it further past 9. But as you can imagine, there's a lot of changes to the code and some of the things on the back end that they'll have to be doing. It's not as easy as just flipping a switch. But for now, it will go to 9. I'm not sure their cap. I know there are some other ones that go as high as 25 as far as the other technologies. Microsoft Teams will go to 9, and that is being released they say in mid to late April. So commercially, you guys should start seeing that any day now in the next couple of weeks. The government side of it, the GCC, you'll start to see it in May. So next month, you'll have to wait a couple weeks post the commercial rollout. I guess that's ensure all the bugs are gone. But that will both be launching in the commercial and the GCC. You'll be moving to 4 to 9. They are, like I said, they're looking to increase it even further, but it'll start with 9, which is a big request from a lot of people that we've been getting. That's one of the number one questions that we've been getting and through our chat bots and our contact forums and our support emails is why can I only see 4 people with all the people who are new to Microsoft Teams? That is a legitimate question, and Microsoft seems to have some sort of an answer for you, at least to start, and then they'll push a little bit more. So the next thing on the list is the raise hand feature, which is one that I like because traditionally in Microsoft Teams meetings, which we've been using Microsoft Teams for quite some time, but it doesn't have to be a Microsoft Teams meeting. It can be any virtual meeting. You have people who are waiting to jump in, right? It's almost as if you're trying to time your voice or your comment so that you're not interrupting somebody else, and then at the same time you're not talking over anybody, but you want to make sure that you're heard, and you don't want to wait too long because then they could change the subject. So this raise hand feature is definitely one that's pretty cool. This is another one that Microsoft will be gradually rolling out in mid to late April for the commercial side, which again, any day now, keep an eye out within your environment for that little hand icon. And then you can expect the feature to support in government in late May. So I assume that these two are going to come out together, this raise hand feature and the moving to 9. I would assume that it's going to be coming out in the same update and rollout of the software. So if you get one without the other, let us know, and so that we can make everyone aware. But that is what it's looking like, is that commercial is going to get it in waves any day now, and then government, it'll be late May. And so what it does is next to the chat. So right now in Microsoft Teams, you have a chat box and you have the show participants. And in between those two, now there will be a little hand, and somebody can click that hand, and that will let the speaker know that that person is attempting to raise their hand and make a comment, which is good for the educational field. It's good for meetings. And so that'll show up on that person's face. So you'll be able to see that that person has their hand raised. It'll also show up in the participants area where you can see which participant has their hand raised and is waiting to speak. So that icon will show up in the control bar, and it'll make easy for whoever the moderator is or whoever's in control of the meeting to say, okay, go ahead, whoever, go ahead and speak. And so then when a meeting participant raises their hand, an icon will appear, and then the participants can even lower their hand to say, hey, not right now, we're not accepting questions. So the person who is in charge of the meeting, they can say, hey, you can lower your hand, or the participant themselves, whoever raised their hand, can then lower their hand to say, hey, never mind that, you just answered my question. So this is pretty cool. I'm looking forward to it. We got this update from Microsoft maybe a week ago stating that it was going to be happening, and I've been keeping an eye out within our environment, waiting for this to hit. So we're right around that time period now, within mid-April. So waiting for it to hit, I guess, 2 days ago. April 15th, that would have been mid-April. So we are in that time frame where it should be hitting us. So which I'm excited about. So be on the lookout for those two features, and then the private channels within the government. And if you are on the commercial cloud, check out private channels now. They're pretty cool. You can do a lot with them. So let's go over that remote work checklist that we went over a little bit last week, and I just want to reiterate it to make sure that you guys have a plan in place and are tackling your remote work. So these are some of the things that we like to talk about whenever we're talking with clients, or we're doing best practices, or we're creating governance. And that's to set up your workspace is the first and foremost thing. So just because you're working from home, you still want it to have that feel of that you're going to a office, or you're going to a specific area in your house that is set up for work. You don't want to feel like you're working out of bed. I know that there are some people who probably are pulling their computer, waking up and just kind of turning their computer on and then laying in bed. And you know, maybe that works for you, but it's not really recommended because of some of the other things that we'll start to go over on this checklist. And but creating your own workspace is important, not only for mental health but also for your family. So if you have you know, kids around, which schools are closed now, so if you have kids around, if you have your designated space and your kids know not to, hopefully they're, you know, if they're old enough to know, if they're old enough that you can say, hey, that, you know, this door stays shut during these times, or I've seen green, yellow, and red stop signs used on doors where you say, hey, red, I'm in a meeting, yellow, you know, only come in if it's something really important, or green, come on in whenever. I've seen that used as well, but it's designating a space that's unique to you and that kind of cuts away from your family time. And that's also important for a couple other points here, the maintaining healthy boundaries. So the reason why I don't like to work out of bed is because then I feel like I'm working all day. I feel like I haven't done anything, you know, gone anywhere or anything like that. Even though these days we're not going anywhere, it helps to just get up from your desk and walk into the living room, or walk into the kitchen or basement, or, you know, walk outside or whatever it is, to get away from your work environment. And if your bed is where you're working, then at the end of the day, when you go to relax and watch a show or whatever it is that your nightly routine is, you're going to feel like you're still in the same place that you spent the last 7 or 8 hours or whatever your work day is. And then that, you know, when you start doing that every day for, I don't know what day of quarantine we're on here, but when you start doing that for a month plus, you know, that can be damaging to your mental health, and it can lead to other things that you want to make sure that you're maintaining that healthy boundaries between work and social life and family. And which I know I skipped this one, but those two are so uniquely connected, that the setting up workspaces and maintaining healthy boundaries, those two are so uniquely connected that I wanted to make sure that I touched on them both. But the one prior to that is communicate often. And this has to do with you know, family. It has to do with coworkers. It has to do with friends. It's really just making sure that people are aware that you know, where you are, what you're doing, what you're working on. When you're in a traditional work environment that is in an office, or you know, wherever it is you can walk down the hallway, knock on a door, pop in, and say, hey, how are you doing? You know, do you want to go get some coffee, or what are you working on today? Or, hey, just wanted to say hi, or whatever the case may be. That's not really something we can do now here in the remote environment. Sure, we can send a chat and say, hey, you know, I'm awake, just logged in. But you want to make sure that you're over communicating now. Making sure that people know that you're online, that you're there. If you have to go get something to eat, if you're going to take a stretch, if you're going to go for a walk, whatever it is, and do those things. Still, if you think about when you're in a, if you're in the office, you don't, well, it's not healthy to sit in the same chair for the full time that you're at the office, right? We get up and we go out to lunch. We get up and we walk down the hall. Sometimes we'll just use the stairs, or whatever it is. You know, you're not sitting in the same chair the entire time. And so that's important to do at home as well, but you want to make sure that you let people know that you're doing those things. You say, you know, hey, I'm going to go take a walk, or I'm going to go check on the kids, or I'm going to go do whatever it is. Just let a couple people know, set up an away message whatever it is that you have to do to make sure that you're over communicating with your team and those around you. Next would be embrace online meetings. So it's not as much as embracing online meetings as it is embracing all of the features of the online meetings, because we really don't have a choice right now of anything other than to embrace the online meetings. But there's a lot of features that online meetings have, like video. So whenever you're doing a meeting, turn your video on. It doesn't matter if I'm wearing a hat right now. In sweatpants, to be honest. There was an article that came out. I don't know what newspaper it was, but they were saying that they were basically trying to tell people, to stop wearing sweats and sweatpants when you're in meetings these days, because we're still paid professionals, and that's couldn't be further from the truth, right? We are in the position that we're in, and we're not going to work. So to wear a suit and tie or whatever it is that you have to do, people should be understanding of what's going on. But at the same time, turn your video on, and it's more about the eye contact and seeing your coworkers rather than staring at a screen and feeling like you're in a room by yourself. So embrace the online meetings, embrace the video. There's chat functionalities within meetings. You can share files and folders and take notes, and there's tons of things that you can do with Microsoft Teams, and you should really embrace these features and make sure that your video is on, because it's amazing how much more productive and how much more engaged you'll be in the meeting if you can see somebody else's face. So that is definitely a something we always tell. It's not always something that happens. We know that bad hair days exist or whatever. There's reasons why you need to turn your video off. And if you're going to the restroom, we've all seen those horror stories. If you're going to the restroom, turn your video off. But for the most part, keep your video on so people can see you and interact with you in a more traditional fashion. Be mindful and inclusive. So this one is a tough one, and one you have to force yourself to do. So in an office setting, sometimes we have offices where we share offices, or we have workspaces where there's multiple people in a room, or you can call a conference and somebody could walk by and see that you're in a meeting and hop on in, right? When you switch to the virtual landscape, it's not as simple as, okay, well, they were in the room, so hey, I'm gonna call you in and call a really quick meeting. It's easier to get into side conversations and side chats. So it's important that you be mindful and inclusive of all team members, where if you're having a conversation about something that's important to multiple people, that conversation happens in a team chat or a channel if we're in Microsoft Teams, so that anyone as part of the team can see those chats happening and understand what's going on without physically having to be a part of that initial conversation, or they can join in conversation if they want to, but it's easy for people to get left out, where you can hyper focus on one or two individuals within your environment, and then people are left out and you're not communicating the way that you should be. So whenever you can make an announcement or make anything like that, do so and include people. Be mindful and inclusive of those around you. Also, record your meetings. That's a perfect lead in there to say, make sure that you are recording your meetings, especially now with everything that's going on. I have 4 children, and schools are closed, daycare's closed, so children are constantly around. And so these times are a little different than others, where there are kids in the house and there might be an emergency where you have to go, I don't know, change a diaper or whatever it might be. But if you're recording those meetings, then there's anything that's missed, somebody could come back and watch the recording of the meeting, understand what was talked about, and then can respond accordingly. You can also save those recorded meetings within Microsoft Stream, where it is saved automatically, and share the recordings with others maybe who weren't a part of the meeting. And then if it's a live event like we're doing right now within Microsoft Teams, then we can take these recordings and we can post them to YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and all the other social networks that we're going to be posting this to, so that people who missed this live event are able to go back and interact and see what all was covered. So make sure you're recording your meetings. It's more than just note taking. It's for those who are not in attendance. It's really hard these days for for people to get into all the meetings that they have. Our calendars seem to be a little bit more booked up heavy than they were prior to COVID-19. So which is there I read a tip the other day that said instead of doing 30-minute and hour-long meetings, you should make them 25 and 55 meetings so that people have that 5-minute period to go from meeting to meeting. We think about it in the office space. We wouldn't want to put meetings to be I have a 1 o'clock to 1:30 and then a 1:30 to 2 and then a 2 to 2:30, right? Because you might physically have to walk somewhere. You might have to go up and down the elevator or whatever it is. Whereas if we're sitting in the chair, it's like, why, but you want to make sure that you're giving those your employees and your fellow coworkers a chance to get up, stretch, use the restroom, get something to drink, whatever it is, some of the things that you're sacrificing by being remote instead of on premise. So make sure you're recording your meetings. And then if you are recording meetings, if somebody misses the first couple minutes, then they can go back and see what was missed. Which leads me to making up for missed hallway talk. Hallway talk is something that a lot of us now, some of our closest relationships or the people that we talk to the most are our coworkers. And so the hallway talk is a lot of the grown-up conversation we might be having is just hallway talk at work, whereas we come home and it's kids talking about kids in school, and it's a different type of conversation. Or maybe you live alone and you come home and there's nobody to talk to, but that hallway talk is something that you can make up for through happy hours like we're doing right now, through lunch and learns, through Yammer is another application where you can just give people the opportunity to just kind of be themselves and still have the opportunity to chat and talk and have fun together. So you got to make up for that hallway talk through innovative and creative ways within the workspace. Maybe it's just a powwow. Something that we've started doing here at Capital Presence is every Monday morning we have Monday morning coffee, where we all get together at 8:30 and we have our coffee together, and it's just kind of a conversation to say, hey, here's what happened last week, here's what we're looking at this week. And it doesn't have to be about work. It can just be brainstorming. It could be about sports or the lack thereof. It could be about anything, really. It's meant to just get the team together in a way that we can talk and have fun, which brings me to the next point, and that's bringing the team together. So you have to set up those calls where people are saying, like those coffees, and say, hey, this is something that we want you to be a part of. And I have a couple clients who say that it's mandatory that you turn your video on, and that people can see each other. So we know that throughout the whole day you might not want to have your video on. Maybe it's maybe you haven't got a chance to shower or brush your hair or whatever it is, right? But if you have a time set up to say, hey, we're going to have a happy hour or whatever at the end of the day, then you give them that forewarning and you say, hey, turn your video on, and it'll be good to see everybody and just hang out and bringing the team together more frequently, right? Maybe you have weekly meetings when you're in the office, but that's because you're seeing each other in the hallway. Maybe you do these bi-weekly and Monday to Friday or whatever it is. Then that way you have an excuse to bring the team together. And finally, just have fun through this, right? This is no fun for anyone, really. Even for us that are used to teleworking all the time, this situation is very different. So make sure that you're having fun still with work, and you're not putting in 10, 12 hour, 14 hour days just because the computer is right there. Shut your computer, walk around, go hang out with your kids, your family, whoever you're quarantined with. Make sure you're having fun, and at the same time interact with your coworkers in a fun way. Microsoft Teams has the ability to send GIFs, so you can send picture messages and GIFs and videos, and like I stated, there's Yammer that you can use to send videos and blogs and chat and to make it as lighthearted as possible. The work that we're doing now, sure life goes on, but it's different. you know. So you got to make sure that you're mindful of everything that's going on. So make sure you're having fun. I did want to bring up a couple of Microsoft resources that we do have. These are COVID-19 response resources that that we've provided, and Microsoft has provided to us to share out with our partners and clients. You can get to this on our website. It's capitalpresence.com. Once you get on the home page, you'll see the button for COVID-19 response and readiness, and that'll take you to this page. There's a lot of different resources here. There's videos, there's training, but what we have highlighted right here is the education and family page, which will give you a lot of different resources and tools, which I believe on the next slide. Oh, no, I left it out of this slide deck, but there's a lot of different tools for, kids and families, and how to communicate, and some educational things that you can do for both teachers and students. And so there's some AI tools on there that we have our kids doing that it'll ask you to, Microsoft has a bunch of artificial intelligence tools. And so the part of that, what they do is they identify animals within a given picture. So it'll be video or pictures that Microsoft has presented, and there is an educational portion to it. So it's like spot the owl or the leopard or whatever it is, and they have to find how many leopards or owls are in the picture, and it tells them a little bit about it. And so there's different age groups. So I believe it's ages 3 through 12, I believe, is what are the ages for this. But if you go to our website, capitalpresence.com, and then you check out the educational resources, there's also a lot of other resources we have here too for teachers, like I said, family, businesses, and then there's training videos as well. So that is those are the resources that we have. So we do have a guest speaker, Gina Gallagher. Courtney, is Gina on yet with us?
Okay, so I've completely shut down everything and just called in on the number, so hopefully this will work.
This should hopefully this
works. But I've
works.
heard everything since 4:30.
All right. Well, yeah, I saw you on, and tech is fun, right? This is all part of the fun. It wouldn't be a coronavirus happy hour if we didn't have some sort of headache involved with it, right?
Exactly.
Which first off, Gina, this is Gina Gallagher. She's from the B3 group. Gina, if you just want to go ahead and give like an introduction to who you are and a little bit about B3, and then just some of the maybe your mission statement or what you guys do within the tech field.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm sorry about the technical difficulties. I was trying very hard to be here in all different avenues, so I wanted to make sure that we have the capability for you to do that.
Great. Yeah. No, thanks for coming on.
All right. So just to give you guys a quick introduction, my name is Gina Gallagher. I've been in the federal government business development space for, probably 30 plus years. Started out with EDS for about 15 years under that Ross Perot EDS regime. It's been bought and sold several times, and it's now known as Perspecta. And of course, it's collaborated at several different pieces. And then it just continued on in large business, some different companies such as 8A, Woman Owned, and really landed about 2008 in the SDVOSB world and fell in love with it. And I fell in love with it because a lot of it is, one, run by veterans, and two, most of the SDVOSBs that I've worked with really sell into the VA, and it's a passion, personal passion that I have. So I've enjoyed really working in the VA and working for, obviously, the veterans who own the companies. The company, obviously, that I work for right now is B3 Group. We're a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business. And we are located in Herndon, Virginia, and we are on the T4NG contract vehicle. That contract vehicle is really a contract that is premier for IT services within the VA. And we are one of the top providers for the VA in IT services. That is a 10-year contract, and you also have what's called the back 5. The first 5 is obviously task orders are coming out on the contract vehicle. You can bid them. We, along with several other companies, have been highly successful in that contract vehicle. At the 5-year mark, you need to recertify to see if you're a service-disabled veteran owned small business. So from there, we will be able to recertify, and we'll have back 5 years of the vehicle, which will allow us the full 10-year contract. So that's very exciting for us. Pretty much hockey stick growth. We've been getting accolades this past year as fastest growing company in the Inc. 5000. We ended up getting the Fast 75 award by the Washington Business Journal and the Tech 100 by NBTC, along with some other accolades as well. One of the things that really attracted me to B3 is our mission statement. We believe in servant leadership, and not only with our customers, but giving back. And the VA is a very important customer for us to give back. One of the things that we really like doing is in our philanthropic, we actually give employees off time to work their personal philanthropic interests, as well as anything as far as matching. So if you have a particular charity that you like, up to $500, B3 Group will match. So that's really attractive for folks that want to give back to their favorite charity or organization. In the areas that we focus is integrity, innovation, and collaboration. That's really part of our mission statement as well. And a couple things really about us. We, again, as I mentioned, are in Herndon, Virginia. 90% of our business is with the VA. We have a couple contracts with the White House, with HUD and Defense Acquisition University. And we are still focused very much on VA because of having the contract vehicle, but we are looking at Defense Health and HHS, and still staying in the health area, and also looking at USPTO is one of our interests going into 2021. Again, as I mentioned, an SDVOSB, about 200 employees. We do have certain certifications on the CMMI and ISO 9000, which make us very competitive in the marketplace. Some of the areas that we focus in is acquisition support, and that would be your contract management administration, some cost and price analysis, policy support. We also do clinical health IT services where we do clinical decision support. Some of our health IT solutions are around mobile apps, giving veterans ability to have access to their healthcare records and obviously solutions for their healthcare challenges. We are one of the providers with InterSystems on HealthShare. Only a couple of companies in the world have that accolade, and we're proud to actually serve in the HealthShare environment with InterSystems. We also do have some infrastructure work. We have those at PBX and voice support at the local hospitals at the VISN level. We also do sysadmin, network management, and help desk and service desk supports. We also have a mentor protege that helps us in that area with cybersecurity called Missing Link. Of course, in the other areas, as most of you guys know us as PMO and software development, DevSecOps support. That is also part of the digital transformation and modernization. And in that area, software sustainment, testing and engineering, and then obviously software requirements. We do have relationships with Salesforce, AWS, Microsoft, and Oracle. One of the things that I will point out on one of our contracts is a digital transformation contract. It's the largest contract that B3 has won for $686 million last year. And really it's for anything that's in the SaaS PaaS world. And we actually have an intake process where we can bring certain technologies into the intake process into the VA that helps them with digital transformation and modernization. So that was a big accolade for us at the end of last year. But that just gives you a quick overview about B3, kind of our core competencies, what we believe in, not only for our customers, but for our employees. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have on B3. And then I know you, I think, wanted to talk a little bit about some of the, I guess, secret sauce, but you may have already discussed that earlier about what are some of the things in this COVID environment that help us survive? And I'm happy to discuss that as well.
Yeah. So that's a big topic and a big question we get a lot of, which is one of the reasons why we reached out to you, Gina, other than we're constantly emailing you and value our relationship with you. But we know that you guys are one of, this is as much as it can possibly be business as usual. You guys are continuing business as usual with your remote capabilities. So can you talk a little bit about some of the things that you guys have done pre COVID-19 or coronavirus, whatever you want to call it, that has readied you guys for the remoteness of our current situation?
Yeah, I'd be glad to talk about that. I think one of the things that we ended up doing is, when we started hearing about COVID in the workplace or just around the area, I have 4 kids in college. And so, they all started coming home for spring break at the same time. And at the office, we started getting some information about this is, getting a little bit more serious. And we were like, we'd have visitors come to our lobby. This is early March, like from Austin or from Florida. And we would, do the little elbow tap and the toe tap, hey, it's good to see you. And, and you laughed about it. And again, this was first week in March. And so once we did that, we started hearing more things, and we're like, this is not funny. Like, now we really have to put measures in place. And I think really that second week in March, which we're now going on week 5 for us, we decided to only come in 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then what we realized is that Thursday, our CEO emailed everyone and said, we are not going to be coming back in. We'll alert you when you will be coming in. Everyone will be working remote. And we figured it'd be like 2 weeks or something, right? And so once we really realized that this was obviously something very serious and that we needed to put measures, the executive team got together, not only probably between the owners, but then the next level of management, and said we need to put things in place. Luckily, many of our employees already telework, but obviously we have a good concentration of about 50 people at headquarters. So we needed to put not only for us as our employees, but we also had to make sure, like, then we started hearing the news with the federal government and our, obviously our customers. So we started making sure that we had good messaging going out. But one of the things that we do is every Tuesday, we will do a video chat with our CEO. He's passionate about making sure that we have all the tools that we need, and that we have everything that we need to work remote. And then every Friday, he sends out a message, kind of concluding the week, maybe what the president's talked about, meaning President of the United States, certain things that have come up throughout the week, and make sure that everybody's aware of those. The other thing we want to make sure is that people are safe and healthy. Luckily, no one at B3 has contracted the coronavirus, but we do have people that have in our employees that have actually family members or have had family members or extended family actually contract the coronavirus. So the concern is, how does that work? Because now we're still expecting people to work, take care maybe of a sick individual. And so all those things play into it, and we've got to make sure that we're there to support our employees, because if they're not healthy, they can't work and they can't get their job done. Therefore, we can't execute our customers. So I would say that that's something that we made sure we have in place. So each individual organization within B3, we constantly are checking our employees. As you know, this has also put a financial crush on many families as well. Even though there may be a single parent that's still earning money, a couple of our folks actually have had the key contributor to the family finances get laid off. And so we've also financially supported some of our employees right now that are in some dark times. And we're making sure that they have financial stability during this time as well. So we're doing not only just your normal, do you have your obviously you have the laptop, can you use video? We're doing everything on conference calls, but we also are kind of, I think, going above and beyond that, making sure that our employees are taken care of in many different ways, whether it's getting food to them, making sure they're financially stable, but also just checking on employees in general. And I did notice on one of the things that you were talking about at the end, you had mentioned about like tutoring and different things for children. One of the things that we put in place right away was to give unlimited tutoring to all parents with ages K through 12 to all employees. So as you're trying to balance your job, you may need some tutoring. So we had that set up immediately once we knew that we would be doing this for some length of time, which I thought was really, really awesome. As well as our medical company, Cigna, has also provided different things and tools that we can use, such as telemedicine and different things for our employees as well.
That's great. That's very cool. Yeah, that you answered a lot of some of what were going to be my next questions there. Like how have you guys innovated? And that's really cool that you guys are doing that Tuesday conferences with your CEO, just making sure that everyone's connected. That's one of the things that I mentioned prior to come on, where it's just saying make sure you guys are communicating with each other. As you know, it's very easy when you're not going into the office and you're not seeing everybody every day to kind of have those side conversations, those side chats with just, you know, some of the people that you're directly working on projects with. But that's very cool that you guys are still doing that. You know, getting everybody together and having those conversations, and it's not just about work. You know, they're outside information and supporting each other, knowing that, you know, we're all human and we're all going through this together, and it's not just, okay, well, how is B3 or how is Capital Presence or how is the business affected? So that was going to be my question. That was my next question was how are you guys innovating? But very innovative, which no surprise, B3 is a very innovative company, but that's very cool that you guys are doing that. And so my next question would have been, outside of the innovation, would be, you know, what type of changes are you seeing in some of your clients? How are you interacting with your clients, and what type of outreach, and how are you still supporting your clients through all this?
Well, I mean, on the client base, I mean, luckily, and as we know, many companies have seen a decrease in financial circumstances. The VA, fortunately, is a client that's getting money. And as you know, with the VA, they want to make sure veterans are taken care of extremely well. So there's a lot of telemedicine being put in place. And certain things that we've done, we've actually instilled a White House hotline, COVID-19 hotline, to make sure any veterans that are calling in and having any distress in any way through the COVID experience, that we have now that contract in place. The other thing is we have joined forces on our DTC contract that I mentioned earlier. We are actually doing 3D printing as well. And so you've seen that on the news with any of the masks or any particular products that's needed at this time. And so we've been really innovative and have been able to help the VA in those areas. One of the things that a lot of our employees have done that are remote and are direct with customers consistently on their particular tasks are doing really the same setup with the innovation with technology, and then also making sure that they have FaceTime. Unfortunately, I don't want to jump on right now because I may lose you guys, because right now it's working just with the telephone. But I would really encourage, like today, I would love to be on this line and be in person, because I think it adds a little bit more of really personal experience versus just talking in and looking at a screen. So, but we are doing all of those things with our customers as well. And then again, during these times of need, we also are, allowing folks to do their philanthropic interests as well, whether it's, it's very hard now to do things in person. So it's like if you wanted to deliver groceries to people in need, or give, food to food banks, things like that. We're encouraging our folks to do that as long as they feel the safety.
Yeah, that's very cool. That's great. Yeah, so that you touched again on what would have been my next question, and that's the advice, and that's which video is big, and I know that I know that you can't hop on because you're on the phone, but that was one of the things that I talked about before you hopped on was embrace online meetings with video. I mean, nobody looks great these days. We're all stuck in the house. Nobody's getting up and getting dressed and putting on their Sunday best these days. So even if you're just throwing a hat and a sweatshirt on or whatever, it's not really about what people are looking like these days. It's that face-to-face interaction and getting to see, team members face to face. So I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm glad that B3 is doing that as well, because I think it's really important. We've seen clients, we similar to you, we work, with the VA, and we work with the U.S. courts, and we work with the Navy, and to see them start to embrace that video, whereas before it was mostly telephone. A lot of the meetings prior to all of this was, what's the call-in line? And then you have everybody staring at a phone and hearing things that way. And you could go a full, contract link without ever seeing what somebody looks like if they're a teleworker, from another state or off-site. And so to see some of the federal government and other clients start to embrace the video is very cool, and I'm glad you brought that up. So outside of the video, do you have any other advice for people who are going through this remote time, and any other tips and tricks that B3 has been advising their employees to take into account?
Well, I mean, we're having, as I mentioned before, I have 4 kids in college, and they're all home now taking their online classes. So we've had to really make shift just on a personal level of how to make sure that all works. And it's really having that quiet space. Because when I first started doing this, my kids are like, Mom, why are you yelling when you're on your conference calls? And I'm like, I'm not. I'm actually just talking. But obviously, if you're in your house, it does appear that you are yelling. So we've had to make shift those. So I'd say one of the things that we've done, not only just at a personal level and trying to make it work, which I don't have young children, is making sure you have areas that are very defined as your workspace, right? That you have a specific area in your house, whether that's, going into a basement, going into an office space in your home, or a makeshift, your bedroom now has a desk in it or something like that. So we've really tried to tell our folks, confine your workspace to a specific area in your home so it doesn't really intrude the lives of all the family members. Because if it does, then you don't want to be telling people to be quiet all the time, but you do need to conduct your your work in a professional manner. I think the other thing is also I have 2 dogs, so you have to keep that in mind. And I know other people have pets. You have to make sure that any excess noises, like we were just on a call right before I joined you guys with Deloitte. And, we all jumped on and said, hey, sorry, the landscaper's outside doing my lawn, the person on the phone, right? You can't help that. There's nothing you can do without that. But we've really tried to say, with barking or excess noise or outdoor, landscaping, things like that, try to make sure you really understand how to use your mute button. Make sure that, you're on that. And we all have delayed, like, I don't think they're on the phone. Yeah, they are. They're just on mute. So we just want to make sure that, like, you really understand the importance of mute just to create professionalism. But we do know that you're going to hear kids, you're going to hear dogs, you're going to hear landscaping. It's just part. People do excuse themselves on the phone, but it is part of life and the way we're living today. We also are really encouraging to get outside, go for a walk, take time to eat lunch. It's really easy now, and we've all talked about this, at least in my group within B3, that it's easy to just, get out of bed, grab your cup of coffee, go sit in front of your computer, and the next thing you know, it's 5 o'clock and you're still in your pajamas. We are getting extended work hours, and we're really trying to tell folks to kind of make sure that, you do have set times and some boundaries around your designated work area. As we all know, in our lifetime outside of COVID, we're accessible 24/7, but we do have to make sure that we're setting some guidelines on that. And then obviously, trying to keep those office hours in not only in your home, but obviously wherever you're making your workspace. We talked about video communications. That was another big area. And then, in your personal time, do take time for yourself away from all your devices, and do something that, even though you can't go and do whatever you want, like if there are certain passions that you have, to try to do that, get caught up around the house on the weekends, so you feel productive not only at work but in your personal life. And I'd say the big area is also you do feel isolated. Some people do, whether they're working home by themselves, or we have, like our house right now, we have 7 people in it, so it's not we're not feeling too isolated, but is to make sure that you are still using your telecommunication products and social devices like FaceTime, Facebook, Skype, to keep in touch with your family and friends, that even though we're social distancing, still use the technologies, to keep in touch with other folks as well, just so you don't feel isolated if, you're by yourself or missing certain people that you're used to seeing most of the time. So I'd say those are, some of the areas that we focused on, not only on our Tuesday calls, but also on our CEO letters on Friday.
No, those are all great. And that's, I will say that, prior to all this, I called my parents, right? Everybody, hopefully if your parents are still around, you are still talking to them and still calling them, but I have FaceTimed my parents more than I ever have in my entire life. So that, if any good comes out of this, it's that maybe we reach out and we have that face-to-face interaction. My parents are in Florida and I'm in Northern Virginia, so I don't have that face-to-face with my parents that I did when we were all in the same state. So that FaceTime is definitely something that I would echo, is just, Facebook Messenger, or there are tons of communication apps out there where you can play games and FaceTime and have those chats and interact with one another, even through everything that's going on. So that's all great. So Gina, how can people get a hold of you, and how can they learn more about B3 Group?
Well, I'm usually your first point of contact, especially if you're looking to team with us on particular opportunities, want to learn more about the company, you have an opportunity you want to bring to us that you may want to team on. And then we have a group that's obviously included of business development, capture managers, and we also have a proposal group within our organization and the growth group. And then we have business development analysts that are helping us with competitive analysis and market research. So generally, depending on if there's a particular opportunity you want to talk to us about, we would introduce you to the appropriate capture manager that's covering that particular territory. And then we can also introduce you to our sales analyst that can connect you and help you with anything that you may need at B3, because they're kind of the spearhead of getting into the growth group. But I'm happy to, I don't know if it's easier for me just to give out my email address and phone number. My phone number is right there on the Q&A, so if you need that, I take text messages and phone calls. The easiest, because we are on the phone all the time, literally 9 to 5 with no breaks, Monday through Friday. It's easier probably to do an email, because then I can obviously respond much quicker. But my email address is Gina, Gina, .Gallagher, just like it is on the screen, Gallagher, b3groupinc.com. So again, it's Gina.Gallagher b3groupinc.com.
Great.
And for some of you who may not have access to the Q&A, I just wanted to say it's 703-955-2127.
There you go.
Is my cell phone.
Great. Yeah, and that's b3groupinc.com for all information about B3 Group, and you're also on the leadership page there. I'm staring right at your picture right now on that website. So great. Well, Gina, thanks for hopping on with us. Sorry about the technical difficulties, but I'm glad we're able to connect and able to get on. A lot of great information, and as always, we at Capital Presence, we look forward to communicating and contacting you again, probably pretty soon. And for the rest of you, I would definitely recommend you guys reach out to B3 Group, even if it's just a conversation with Gina to see how they're helping with over at the VA. So thank you very much, Gina.
Well, thank you for having me. Everybody have a great weekend. Stay safe and healthy. And hopefully some of these chats will actually turn to in-person in the near future.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Gina. So next week we have Mike Clark of Tech Data, who will be joining us. We'll be, like I said before, for Tech Data, they're our distributor. So we will be talking with them about cloud innovations that's going on between Gmail, between Microsoft Office 365, which is becoming Microsoft 365, and some of the other offerings from AWS and Microsoft Azure. So that'll be with Mike Clark. So make sure you look out for that. And then, of course, in 2 weeks, one that I'm really looking forward to is Paradise Springs of Clifton, Virginia. They're a winery. They've been doing some virtual wine tastings. They actually have a release party for Effing Merlot, which that's the name of it, Effing Merlot, which is really cool. So you can go on their website or just Google them, Paradise Springs of Clifton. I want to say it's paradisespringsofclifton.com, I believe, or maybe it's paradisespringswinery.com. You can Google them or Bing them, and I'm sure they'll show up. But make sure you check them out. They'll be on in 2 weeks to talk about some of their wines, some of the innovation, some of the ways that they're innovating and making sure that they're still taking care of their wine club members and they're still serving the community as a local vineyard. So guys, thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks to Gina Gallagher for coming on, and we'll see you next Friday. We're going to be doing these every Friday, and all the recordings will be downloaded and put up on our YouTube page, and for you to be able to go back and be able to take a look at them or rewatch till your heart is full. So thanks for everybody for hanging out, and see you next time.